On this episode, we look at a new course to teach pedestrian design to engineering students. The Center for Neighborhood Technology in Chicago is promoting location-efficient mortgages. The Congress for the New Urbanism meets in Portland, Oregon. A neighborhood group in southwest Portland works to improve pedestrian connectivity. A wheelchair user in Cincinnati has problems with missing sidewalks. And finally, we look at the peculiar placement of trash dumpsters. Stay tuned. We're in McLean, Virginia, talking with Carol Tan Essie at the Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center. What is the center?
The Turner Fairbank Highway Research Center is the research arm of Federal Highway. The Federal Highway Administration is part of the Department of Transportation. And out here at Turner Fairbank, we conduct a lot of the research that supports the safety and mobility and productivity goals of USDOT.
And what's your job out here?
I am the program manager of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Research Program for Federal Highway. I currently manage much of the safety research that helps to improve safety, increase mobility for pedestrians and bicyclists. And one of our goals is to produce tools and evaluation methods that help planners and engineers to increase the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists and increase walking and biking as modes of transportation.
What are some of the tools you've been able to come up with over the years?
We've developed some software that helps planners and engineers type or categorize pedestrian bicycle crashes with motor vehicles. We've developed the Bicycle Compatibility Index, a tool that helps to determine the bicycle friendliness of a roadway. We've also been working on developing a university-level course for transportation engineering and planning students to learn more about how to safely accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists.
And that's just nearing completion now. What was the impetus behind that? How did that project get started?
Well, as I mentioned, we're part of USDOT, and we have a safety goal that we'd like to decrease by about 20% the injuries and fatalities in 10 years. And pedestrians and bicyclists together comprise about 15% of those motor vehicle fatalities. If you want raw numbers, that's about 5,000 to 6,000 pedestrian and bicycle fatalities each year and about 60,000 injuries. So one of the tools that we've developed or working on developing is this university course. We'd like to target future professionals so that they have the background to safely accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists in a integrated transportation system.
What does this course consist of? I'm a professor. I contact you. What am I going to come up with?
Well, this course has 24 modules. It's developed, as I said, in 24 modules. We cover introductory topics in non-motorized transportation, such as the history, some of the legislation, and then we go into planning topics and then more detail for design topics. Planning involves developing local planning guides to incorporate pedestrian and bicycle transportation projects into an overall transportation project. We also, as I said, cover design topics, so it gets into more details such as traffic calming and intersection design that accommodates pedestrians and bicyclists. This course is comprised of three main elements. We have the instructor's guide, a student's guide, and some scripted slideshows. And the student's guide and the instructor's guide basically parallel each other. The student's guide has the majority of the text and figures, while the instructor's guide provides course objectives for each one of the modules and can give the professor some overheads, some sort of canned overheads that he or she could use if he or she wanted to, and then a synopsis of what we felt was important to gain out of that particular module. And the scripted slideshows are done in a PowerPoint type presentation. It includes slides with text and also photographs and figures of different illustrations of the facilities that we're trying to describe in the course.
Would a professor have to use the whole thing? Could they use parts of it? And would it be a freestanding course, or could they incorporate this into an existing course? What do you see as the role of this?
What you've described is basically what we are thinking of either way. A professor could take this whole course and just take it as is and teach all 24 modules if he or she chose to. Or you could just take a few of the modules and incorporate the material into your own course material. So you don't necessarily have to use every single thing in here. You can use bits and pieces. It's just a guide, as I mentioned, a guide that people can use to see what are the key elements that really should be included.
What's been out there before? What have professors been doing?
Well, there really hasn't been a lot done at the university level in transportation engineering. For the most part, professors have taught fairly standard highway engineering design, which is basically pushing motor vehicles, trucks, cars, buses. Some professors have included pedestrian and bicycles more in a cursory fashion. I think there are only one or two university curricula that actually taught a course on pedestrian and bicycle transportation. So to answer you quickly, it's not a whole lot. I'd like to say that this is an effort that we've made to hopefully get more interest going and to prepare future professionals as students so that when they get out there, they have the tools to safely accommodate everybody who wants to walk or bike.
Now you've almost finished preparing the course. How's it going to be distributed?
Well, we'll be putting the course on a CD. The student's guide, the instructor's guide, and the PowerPoint presentations will all be on a CD. And we'll send it out to as many professors that we know of that have transportation planning courses. And we'll do some conferences where we'll talk to people about the course, and if they're interested, they can email us or go to our website and request it that way. And we've also conducted workshops on a periodic basis where we contact professors and bring them in where we can actually walk them through the course materials and tell them about the course and hopefully convince them to use the material. So again, if people are interested, they should visit our website or call me, and we'll see about getting them a copy of this CD.
We're talking with Jackie Grimshaw, who's coordinator of Transportation and Air Quality Programs of the Center for Neighborhood Technology in Chicago. What is the center?
The Center for Neighborhood Technology is a 22-year-old public policy advocacy organization, and we work in the areas of transportation, air quality, land use, community energy, sustainable manufacturing, and we have a research and development division. And our goal is to work in to make sure that urban neighborhoods, urban communities are sustainable for everyone and that they work for everyone. And so we have a public policy component, a market component, and an information and dissemination component, so that once we invent new tools for communities to use, that we can disseminate them widely.
One of those new tools is the location-efficient mortgage.
Exactly.
What is that?
The location-efficient mortgage is a mortgage product that recognizes that when people use public transit, they live in high-density neighborhoods, high-density in the sense that they can walk to local amenities, they can walk to the grocery store, they can walk to the cleaners, they can walk to the daycare center, that they can take care of their needs of everyday life without having to get into a car, that there is a substantial savings. And we take that savings and add it to income for the purpose of qualifying people for mortgages. So it makes being a homeowner much more affordable for people who otherwise wouldn't qualify, have the opportunity to become homeowners through the location-efficient mortgage.
So how many places are trying this out now?
Right now, we have a location-efficient mortgage program in Chicago, in Seattle, in San Francisco Bay Area, and in Los Angeles.
How much difference can that make if someone doesn't need to own a car in terms of what you can finance for a house?
Well, and the averages vary slightly among those four cities, but in Chicago, for example, given the average cost of housing and the average income, that we're talking about a state or additional homeowner being able to qualify for $40,000 additional, and that's a substantial savings because we have figured out through a very complicated model what each of the location-efficient values, the savings for every address in the city of Chicago, in fact, every address in all four of those cities and areas, so that we can say that if you live in this place with a family income of Y, that you have a potential savings of Z dollars, and that average in Chicago is about $400. And so when you say, for example, you have an income of $2,000, that means that to call it in the mortgage application process, you have a credit of income of $2,400, $2,000 plus $400, and that $400, can translate into somewhere around $40,000 additional house.
How many more people will be able to afford homes as a result of that?
Well, in Chicago, at any one time, we have about 6,000 to 8,000 properties for sale, and we think that we can easily qualify. I should say that one of the limitations on this mortgage is that Fannie Mae buys these mortgages for the secondary market, and Fannie Mae has a limit of the amount of mortgage they will buy, and that's $252,000. So that if you mortgage more than, or you get a mortgage loan for more than $252,000, it's not impossible, but it's more difficult to qualify for this product. So that's one limitation. And so we think that we can qualify at least 1% of that 6,000 to 8,000 properties as a location-efficient mortgage product. And that's conservative. I mean, we really don't know. We have been operating this program since May 31st is when we officially announced it in Chicago. So, we don't have enough of a history to say exactly how many, but we think conservatively that 1% easily. And hopefully we'll get much more than that. Fannie Mae has committed to buying $100 million in mortgages using this product. So we hope to use that up in a great big hurry so we can get them to increase their commitment.
We're in Portland, Oregon, talking with Robert Davis, who's chair of the board of directors of the Congress for the New Urbanism. What is the Congress?
The Congress is an alliance of professionals and practitioners who are concerned with reinvesting in the city as a way, as one of many ways of protecting the environment from being gobbled up continually by suburban sprawl.
You've been here in Portland for the last 4 days for your 8th annual Congress. What was the theme of this year's Congress?
The politics of place. How can we engage in the political process in a way to galvanize both people and politicians to begin to see the shaping of their environment as important to the quality of their lives? Portland's a wonderful example of an environment in which politics and place have in fact come together rather well, and the consciousness of the general populace as well as the politicians is very high about protecting the environment and making better and better urban neighborhoods.
People do polls. No one seems to like sprawl. Why would this be a political challenge to reach out to the rest of the country, much of which seems to be so far behind Portland?
Well, we're operating under a very efficient and pervasive operating system that was designed largely right after World War II that used the industrial techniques that we used to win the war to create vast acreages of new housing and shopping centers and later office parks to build a whole new America. This seemed like a great idea at the time, but it no longer seems like a great idea. But the operating system underlying this set of production techniques is still in place, and it's very, very difficult to dislodge an embedded operating system. It's almost as if you were asking everybody to switch from Windows to Linux.
The idea of new urbanism, some people who haven't heard much about it might think, oh, it's just, you put quaint porches in the front of a house and you've got it. But how does it relate a little more deeply than that into the fabric of cities, the fabric of communities? What's the connection there?
Well, the Charter of the New Urbanism is a remarkable document that addresses the issues of the city at all scales, starting with the region. So you have the region, the towns, villages, hamlets, and cities that make up the region. And then within the city, you have the neighborhood, the block, and the district, and then the individual buildings that make up neighborhoods and blocks and districts. It's one of the only intellectual frameworks in operation today that tries to integrate all the issues of environmental protection, housing, affordability, jobs, housing balance, social equity into one framework, and shows fairly effectively how all these issues are related to one another. It's a seamless web of connections that can't easily be taken apart. It stands in strong contrast to the rather simplified operating system we're now encumbered by, that's embedded in the production of the American landscape, the built landscape, and that's one which used the techniques of mass production of separation, specialization, and simplification to build large tracts of housing subdivisions by people who only know how to do housing, and shopping centers by people who only know how to do retail. We are now trying to train a new cadre of generalists who can put it all together and build mixed-use, mixed-income neighborhoods where most of life's daily needs are within walking distance, and which are, because they are compact and walkable, accessible to transit, and therefore other things that go beyond daily needs are easily accessed through a variety of ways, not just getting in your automobile, but walking, getting on a variety of transit options, bicycling, hiking through greenways, whatever. It's all about choice. It's about giving Americans more choices for how they live and where they live within their neighborhoods, and allowing them even the choice of staying in place as they move from being young marrieds to people with children, to empty nesters, to old people who can't drive around anymore but would probably prefer to stay in the neighborhood where they have a social network and a network of friends and relatives.
We're in Portland, Oregon, talking with Don Bach with the Southwest Trails Group. What is the Southwest Trails Group?
Well, Southwest Trails is a group of people that has been organized about 3 years now, basically focusing on pedestrian and bicycle issues in Southwest Portland. And that includes looking at connectivity, improving the pedestrian safety, and letting people walk where they want to walk rather than having to walk on the main thoroughfares. In the past, most of the effort in Portland as far as pedestrians has gone is we have to put sidewalks in to keep people from out of the street. We've got a lot of streets here that don't have sidewalks, and that's just fine. I mean, we like them that way. But we want to be able to also have safe places to walk that are continuous and we can get from place to place rather than just walk in a small circle. And so what our group has done is basically tried to put together our thoughts on maps of where we want to get to across our whole neighborhood, which is 18 neighborhoods in Southwest Portland, about 60,000 people.
So
10 square miles.
what'd you come up with?
We've got a couple of maps. One is a pedestrian route map, which would be neighborhood-based, shows where people walk within a local neighborhood. It looks like a spider's web across our whole network, as you'd expect. In addition to that, we've come up with a urban trails map, which is the major linkage, north-south, east-west, that we want to put into place in the next 5 years here in Portland, so that we can walk from downtown Portland to Lake Oswego, a distance of maybe 12 miles, 13 miles. In the same way, from the zoo at Highway 26 all the way through the Mormon Temple to the Cruise Way, again another 12 mile, 13 mile hike. And then we've got 5 east-west routes that will get us access across Portland east-west, which we've never had before. And a good deal of the problem has been people would have great desire to walk, but they don't know how to get from their home to where they want to go. So a part of this will be to provide maps so they can easily find the route, and then in addition to that have markers, discrete markers along the way to show where these routes would go.
And this is a fairly ambitious project. How'd you go about it? What was the process involved in producing this plan?
Well, first of all, we had a Southwest Community Plan, which is land use planning in Oregon is probably much more intense here than it is anywhere else in the nation, because we've had land use laws for 25 years. We've had an urban growth boundary for a long time. And as a result, we're getting more densification in our neighborhoods, which most of us feel is reasonable if it's done with the appropriate infrastructure, if it's done in a way that makes life more livable rather than less livable. And as a result of that, we started a Southwest Community planning process. Part of that process, people were identified that we want to have some walkways in our neighborhoods. And I began to ask, well, how do these things get connected? And ask if someone was going to look into that. And there was a complete silence. The next meeting, I asked the same question, a complete silence. So I decided to organize it myself. And I just started calling people and saying, I'm going to have this meeting. I found a place to have the meeting. It's been the same place ever since. And we just started meeting and talking about what we want to do. And a lot of people said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then I pulled out my handheld and I began putting names in, email addresses, fax numbers, snail mail addresses. And there's now 500 or 600 people on the list. And as a result, we're beginning to get a political base of support that says, we want to see some things positive happen here, and we're willing to go to City Council to demand that we get some budget to do it, and do it in a way that we want to see it done, and not just the way that the engineers or the people that run things downtown may want it done. It's a partnership between us and them. And that's come because we've been pretty forceful in expressing our opinions and expressing what we're trying to achieve. And they began to understand that there is another way of doing things rather than what they've tried to do, which is keep people out of the middle of busy streets. So, rather than just saying we need sidewalks, we need places that people can walk to get from place to place, to shopping, to the bus, to school, and make it easy for people to get there. And then they'll use those routes all the time rather than just during 1 or 2 times a year or a month or a week.
We're in the Mount Washington neighborhood of Cincinnati, talking with Claudia Krushak. What problems do you face getting around the neighborhood?
The neighborhood I live in has a definite shortage of sidewalks. Most of the streets in Mount Washington don't have sidewalks. And this street in particular is very bad because it's an unimproved street, meaning it has no gutters, no curbs, no markings at all. It's a two-way street connecting two rather busy streets. It gets a lot of traffic, especially in the morning and evening rush hours. There are buses that use this street, and it's a really scary situation for even able-bodied pedestrians. But if you have any kind of mobility impairment, if you use a scooter or a wheelchair, it's real frightening to be trying to go down the street and having a bus bear down on you. And there's no place to go. You have no alternative.
So what do you do then? And what can you do?
Frankly, I avoid this street. even though the bus stop closest to my house is at the end of this street, I don't use that bus stop. I go out of my way and take a further away bus stop simply to avoid this street. It's very frightening.
What would you like to see the city do?
I would like to see the city improve this street, make it a complete street with curbs, gutters, and sidewalks that go all the way from the street here behind me, which does have sidewalks, to the street at the end of this one that has sidewalks. I would like to see a sidewalk connecting the two streets so it would be possible to get to the bus stop safely without having to dodge traffic.
Almost any business has to deal with the problem of where to stick their trash dumpster. One solution is to build a little brick-walled enclosure to keep it out of sight. But where do you put that enclosure? We're along Meadowbrook Avenue in McLean, Virginia. They've come up with a decent solution. They stuck the brick dumpster enclosure off in one corner of the parking lot. Pedestrian walking along the sidewalk here might not even notice it. It's certainly not going to be in their way. But not everybody's that clever. We were down in Waco, Texas recently, where there's a similar brick-walled dumpster enclosure. But instead of stuck off in the corner of a parking lot somewhere, they placed it right smack in the middle of the sidewalk. Their fancy brick sidewalk they put along Mary Avenue has to take a detour to get around the dumpster. To add insult to injury, when they swing the door open in order to load trash into the dumpster, the gate blocks that detoured sidewalk. We wouldn't blame the pedestrians in Waco if they felt dumped on.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.